Alright, so now we'll actually start building our final bot. Now I'll be doing the development of the bot in the same main.py file because I think there will be a nice flow of understanding for you if I continue it on this file. But if at all you want to save these files for reference, you can do so. Otherwise, I have provided them in this course so you can download them. So we'll be continuing on this file. So first of all, we'll connect to our database MongoDB. So to do that, we'll have to import PyMongo, which we have downloaded earlier in the starting videos. So if you haven't watched them, then just go ahead and watch it. And if you don't want to watch it, then you just have to install PyMongo module. And after that, we'll have to import it. So from PyMongo, import Mongo client. Okay, this is the thing which connects our Python file with the MongoDB's database. So to connect to our cluster, first go to mongodb.com and we need to get the URL. So just click on connect. In the previous video, we have configured the setup connection security. So now we'll have to connect it. So just click on connect your application and then copy this code and then close this. And now let's go back to PyCharm. And now what we have to do is first we'll have to initialize cluster equals Mongo client of quotation marks, then paste the code which you have copied. So Control V, and in the password section, just replace this by your password. My password was JAI, so I'll just replace it with JAI. Now after this, we'll have to initialize our database. So just type in db equals cluster of, in these quotation marks, you'll have to type in your database name. So a cluster has different databases, so we'll have to select which database. And as you can see, we have named our database bakery. So we'll just type in bakery. Now we'll have to initialize users equals database of users because that is the name that we have given. And finally, orders equals database of orders. So this will basically initialize users and orders, which is quite simple. So with that, our database would be connected. Now we have to code the main part. Now before we actually do that, I'll just show you a flowchart, which will kind of make things easy to visualize. So as you can see, this is that chart. So the very first time the person sends a message, we'll have to output this message. Okay. Hi, thanks for contacting the Red Velvet. You can choose from one of these options below. So this message should be replied for the very first time the user logs in. Now how to actually check whether a user is logged in or not? For that we'll use some functions. Okay. Now what are they? You might ask. So they are quite simple functions. You don't have to know anything to actually write this. So what you have to do is first of all type in user equals users dot find one. Okay, find one and curly braces and then quotation marks number, this number. Okay, so what this means is this method will try to find a user whose number is equal to the number who has sent us a WhatsApp message. Now if this user exists, then he must be an existing customer, else we'll have to send this message. Okay, so we'll have to send this message only to a new user. Okay, so how to actually check if this user exists or not? For that we'll be using the bool function. Now this I have already covered in that article, so if you haven't read that, I highly recommend you to do that first because it contains everything which is necessary for this course. Okay, and if you don't want to do that, then you can just type in if bool of user. This evaluates to true or false. That is, if the user exists, then it will output true, and if he doesn't, then it will output false. Okay. Now let's get rid of this code because we won't be needing that at all. If bool user equals false, then we'll have to send this message. Okay. Now how to actually do that? In the same way as we have been doing in the previous videos, response.message of, and in these quotation marks we'll have to fill the message. Now I'll just copy and paste the message because I don't want to waste your time. So I'll just paste it. Now you can get this in the file. So just copy that and paste it. And there might be some things which might interest you. For example, this star and star means the inner text will be in bold in the response, and backslash n indicates a new line, and double backslash n means two new lines. So that is pretty much it, which you might have to know. And these are basically the emojis. And if you are on Windows, you can get access to emojis by typing Windows plus dot, and it will bring up the emoji keyboard. And you can just type in one and then click on one to actually get an emoji. So that is how to get an emoji. So these are some things which might be new to you. So let's rename response to RES because we'll be using this often. So it'll be better if we use the shortened version of it. Okay, now after sending this message, as the user is new, we'll have to add user into our database. Now how do we actually do that? It's simple. Just type in users dot insert one and then curly braces. So we'll be storing three things. One is WhatsApp number of that person, and second is the status, like where he is, and status and messages list. Okay, so these are the three things that we will store. So just type in quotation marks, number will be equal to number, and then comma, status will be equal to main because he is on the main page, and finally messages will be equal to an empty array. Now this is a symbol for empty array. Array is list of things. In this case, it is list of messages. Okay. And finally, we'll do the else part. Now in the else part, we'll just respond with, I don't know what to say. Okay. And finally, in any case, we'll have to add the user's message into our database. So to do that, just type in users dot update one. So we'll filter using the number. So just type in quotation marks number equals number. Now we'll have to add the text into the messages array. So to do that, just type in quotation marks dollar sign push. This basically pushes anything into an array. So push colon curly braces. We'll have to update the messages. So just type in messages. We'll have to update this array. So we'll have to push the text of the message and the date when it was sent. So we'll store the text of the message and also the date, like when it was sent. So initially text equals text and date will be equal to date dot date time dot now. Okay, and I just realized we did not import this library, so let's import it and give a line gap and type in from date time import date time. So this is a default library, so you don't have to install any package. After this, this should not show any errors. Okay, so let us test this. So just open up terminal, and I think I've already told you in the first terminal, just type in nodemon main.py and just split it. And in the second terminal, just type in nodemon dash dash watch. We have done this in the previous video. Nodemon dash dash watch main.py. So this will watch main.py for changes, and dash dash exec space lt dash dash subdomain. Your name, anything. I'll type my name, and port will be 5000. And we'll have a delay of 2 seconds. Even 1 second should work just fine, but I'm just doing 2 seconds to avoid any problems. So now let's open up WhatsApp. So let me just send hi. So as you can see, there is a post request and we have got our welcome message. Now let's just check with our database whether the user is registered or not. So I'll just refresh this. And as you can see, the user is registered. Okay, and if I click on messages, there is a single object and the text with hi, and there's the date. So our bot is working as intended. Now let's just type in something else. Now as the user is already registered, now it has to reply with I don't know what to say. So let's just test that, and I'll send hello again. And as you can see, it responds with I don't know what to say. And either way, the messages array should be updated. So to check that, I'll just refresh this. And as you can see, the messages array has been updated and we have a new object which says hello. So our first page is working pretty well. Now we'll have to program it to take inputs and respond accordingly. So let's get to it. So now we have to program our bot to reply with these messages whenever the user sends 1, 2, 3, 4. And if he doesn't send 1, 2, 3, 4, it has to respond with please enter a valid response. Okay, so we'll have to perform that validation and we have to respond with the correct details if the input is valid. Okay, now another thing, now we'll have to respond with these messages only when the status is main. Like if the message that they received was this, then we don't have to respond with these messages. I think you'll clearly understand it as we go through. So like basically what I'm trying to say is we'll have to send email only for this particular page. Now how do we know the state of the user? Like he's in the main page or he's ordering. Now we'll know that using the status option that we will have in our database. So this is the option which will help us decide. Okay, so if the status is main, then respond with one of these messages, and if the status is ordering, then respond with another message. Okay, so if I type 1 in the status page, then you'll have to show me my email, and if I type 1 in the ordering page, then we'll have to start an order for the red velvet cake. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to say. So that is why we are using the status key in our database. Now let's go back to PyCharm. So the code will be in the else part. So I'll just remove this. And also we'll have to reply only if the status is main. All right. If the status is ordering, then we'll have to reply with a different thing. So it will be only for LF. LF is short for else if. So just type in user status is equal to main. Only then we'll have to respond with one of these messages. Otherwise, if the status is ordering, we'll have to place an order rather than showing email. Okay, so let's go back. So first we'll have to check if the response is numeric. Okay, so if the response is a string like hello or hi, we have to send a validation message because we want them to enter only one of these 4 things, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if they enter other than 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'll just send a validation error. Okay, so how do we do that? So first of all, I hope you have gone through that blog article in which I have shown you error handling in Python. So if you haven't, please go and check that out. And this is how it's done. We'll be using the try and except block. So try is basically this tries to execute a piece of code. And what is that? It will try to convert the text into an integer and stores it in a variable called option. Okay. And if it is unable to convert, then that means that option is not an integer. Okay. Option cannot be converted into an integer. That is because it is not a numeric string. And in the except block, we'll be typing res.message and in the message we'll send please enter a valid response, and then we'll just return from the function because we don't want to proceed any further. Okay, so we'll just return the stringified value of response as we have been doing forever. Okay, now after this we'll have to check if the option is 1. So if option is equal to 1, then we'll have to respond with our contact information. So just type in res.message. I'll just paste the message which I have already typed in. just not to waste your time. So yeah, this is that message. You can contact us through phone or email. This is our phone and this is our email. So these are some arbitrary invalid details. And if you want, you can modify the message. And let's do the same for options 2, 3, and 4. So just type in LF option equals 2. We'll have to send two messages. Now, what are those messages? So these are those messages. The first one is you have entered ordering mode, and also you'll have to send this big message. Now, along with doing these, we'll also have to set the status to ordering. Now, why do we have to do that? This is to help us identify where they are. So, for example, if at all the person hits 1 in main mode, then we'll have to send our contact information to them. And if at all the person enters 1 in ordering mode, then we'll have to place an order for red velvet cake. So this status helps us sort of identify when which mode they are. All right. So that is why we'll have to do that. So we have to do two things. That is, we'll have to send these messages, and also we'll have to update the status to ordering. So let's just do that. Now back to PyCharm. So first we'll have to send those two messages. Now what are those messages? The first one is res.message of you have entered ordering mode. So I have copied and pasted this. You can also copy and paste this from the file. And after this, we'll have to update the status to ordering. Now how do we do that? Just type in users dot update one, and the first one is, as you can see, it is the filter. Now how do we filter? As you can see, we'll filter through number. So curly braces, number is number. All right, so this is the way that we filter. Now update. Now what do we update? We update the ordering mode. So how do we update the ordering mode? Just have the curly braces and then quotation marks. And as you can see, this is similar to this, that is pushing the messages. Instead of pushing, we will actually set it. Now, what are we setting? We are setting the status. So just type in $set. And then once you type in $set, just have colon and then curly braces again. Just the format is just like the below one. And after this, type in quotation marks again. We will type in status and colon. Now we will update the status to ordering. So ordering, that's it. So with this, we will update our status to ordering. All right. Now after this, we'll have to type in this huge message. So I have copied the message from the file. You can also do the same. It'll not waste your time. And then I'll paste it in PyCharm. So res.message, quotation marks, then this entire string. And let me truncate this backspace. Now, once we do this, the work for option 2 is done. Now, let's work on option 3. What is option 3? Option 3 is to send the working hours. So, it is quite simple. So, we work every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in bold. All right. So, let's do that. So, LF option equals 3 colon enter, and we can just copy this entire thing or this string and then we'll modify it. And we work every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Now AM and PM are, and generally the correct notation is small, but generally people tend to like the capital notation better for some reason. So we'll also use the capital notation. And to bolden this thing, we will be using asterisks around these 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So that's it for option 3. And finally, for option 4, LF option equals 4. What do we have to send? Let's have a look at the flowchart. So we'll have to send, we have multiple stores across the city. Our main center is at 454 New Delhi. This can be different for you as well. It really doesn't matter. You can just enter any address. This is also not really a real address, I believe. So yeah, so we will be entering this information. So let's do that. Res.message. We have many centers across the city. Our main center is at 454 New Delhi. And that is pretty much it for all the options. And finally, we'll have to send a validation error if the option is not among 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's do that as well. That will be just simply an else statement, else colon enter, and we'll be sending the same thing. So let me copy this and paste it. And that is pretty much it for our main page. All right, so now let's just test this. So I'll save it. Now I'll open my WhatsApp. So now before we go to the option 2, we'll go to option 3 and 4. All right. Because we will be entering ordering mode and we have not really configured ordering mode page. So we'll first go to 3 and 4 and then we'll come back to 2. All right. So first let's enter 3. So we've got the message, we work every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And let's enter 4. We have many centers across the city. Our main center is at 454 New Delhi. Perfect. Now finally, let's try 2. All right, so we've got 2 messages. You have entered ordering mode and you can select one of the cakes to order and all these things. Now before we actually finish, there is a bit of a padding for 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's have a look on what is the problem. So let me remove this space, and in the file I'm pretty sure it will be resolved. So before 6 the space is gone, and for 7 also space is gone, and for 8 also let us get rid of space, and that is pretty much it. So now we won't really face any problem. Before we move on to the next video, let's just check whether or not the status has been set to ordering in our database. Now this is the MongoDB cluster. So just click on Browse Collections and then click on Users. That is where we store the status. So as you can see, the status has been set to ordering. So that is pretty much it for the main page. In the next videos, we will be configuring our ordering page, and we will have different options, and we will also learn how to go back in the state, that is domain, and we will also take address as an input. And finally, we will be able to place the order as well. And in the advanced section, we will also learn how to recur back to the beginning once the order has been completed. All right. So I'll see you there. Bye.